Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today's episode includes 3 great stories. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. D-Bag makes my life hard, so I ousted him for insurance fraud. A little over a year ago, I started working as an electrician with my dream company. I got good hours, $25 per hour, great coverage, and a crap ton of experience. My employer was a decent family business kind of guy who always commended me on my work and understood whenever I needed to take time off, which I tried to limit to as little as possible. Yup, I was living the good working life until we hired Carl. Carl was a man's man, a big, beefy jock kind of dude who strived to be as manly as possible. Any guy who deviated from the path of manliness was relentlessly ridiculed and humiliated by Carl. Use gloves, ridiculed. Hates spiders, ridiculed. The guy was an absolutely sickening sight to most guys on site, and I was one of, if not the most picked on guy. It seemed that everything I did was an invitation for the guy to take a verbal dump on me. I brought it up to my employer, but Carl played the innocent card and somehow had people to help back him up on it. So the ridicule continued for a while until I'd had enough. This man was a thorn in my side for too long, so I wanted revenge. I didn't know how I'd do it, but I was determined to get this jerk back. Thankfully for me, Carl was a boaster, and he boasted about a lot of stuff he really shouldn't have. One such thing was the time he got away with insurance fraud. As he tells it, his parents used to spoil him rotten. In his early 20s, they bought him a car and insured it for everything. Fire, theft, vandalism, the whole 9 yards, but the ungrateful brute wasn't happy with the car they got him. They would have none of his complaining, and he would have to deal with it until he ran the car into the ground. That was until his friend suggested the crazy idea of falsifying an insurance claim. He reported his car stolen, and it was found by the police 3 days later, burned out in a back lot. His insurance net made him a decent sum of money, which he then used to buy a better car and fully insure it. He even boasted about how the insurance company, in full name, never caught him and how stupid they were. This was how I'd get back at him. I let a coworker who was also sick of Carl in on the plan. I would record him admitting to committing insurance fraud and send a copy of the recording to the police and insurance firm. I bought a little recording device and hid it in my pocket during work. When Carl was within earshot, I started up a conversation with my coworker about how I used to get away with stealing candy bars from a corner store I lived by when I was a kid. As soon as Carl heard me, he retorted with a, "Ha, that's nothing," which I took as my cue to start recording. The fool of a man blathered out everything and did a good job giving details. At the end of it all, just to seal the deal, I said, "Really? Carl, last name, criminal extraordinaire, got away with insurance fraud?" With his arms folded in triumph and a smug look on his face, he replied, "You're damn right. I'm smarter than I look, huh?" That night, I took my proof home and converted it into an audio file on my computer and used a burner email account to send it to the local police station and his insurance company. 3 days later, Carl didn't come to work. He didn't come in for the next few days either. I eventually learned that he got arrested at home and is currently on unpaid leave from work. Not fired, but he's not receiving money either. So it's just as bad as being fired. And our second story. The best revenge serves itself. This revenge belongs not to me, but a friend of mine. My friend Janine worked in an office with a woman who acted like the queen bee. We'll call her Dizzy. Dizzy would butt into everybody's private business and called herself a police officer. It was one of those jokes that wasn't really funny because people could tell she really believed it on some level. She would regularly slip in 15 minutes to half an hour late, but got away with it because she was buddy-buddy with the administrative assistant who would sign in on time for her. Oh, but God forbid you try to slip in 5 minutes after the hour, she'd be chewing your butt like she was your boss. Dizzy was a 40-something woman with a fiancé who preyed on every male in the office and regularly cheated on her fiancé with the 20-something men who worked at the business below the office. She would pressure her coworkers into pub crawls and then gossip about whoever couldn't make it. One no-show was this sweet woman who was a recovering alcoholic. Dizzy relentlessly mocked her for being one of those straight-edge creeps who thought she was too good for the rest of them. Dizzy gets her nickname from the fact that she said she had epilepsy. She would get these conveniently timed seizures and fall to the floor twitching and babbling. Janine said it was really theatrical. She would just yell, "Oh no," and drop to the floor. She was magically cured of this epilepsy after she forgot about it for a month or two, and then someone asked her about it. Dizzy just shrugged and said she got over it. She got over epilepsy. Yeah. Janine managed to stay off her radar by being boring as possible. This let her stay like a fly on the wall, watching Dizzy swindle the system and the people around her. Dizzy was privy to a lot of secrets about the higher-ups due to her friendship with the administrative assistant, this hag that no one could stand to be around because she was as bad as Dizzy and reeked like old cigarettes, and she started to get a little drunk on power. Dizzy would yell at other workers, women, always just the women, when the boss wasn't in earshot, got sloppier and sloppier about arriving on time, got bolder about her affairs. She would brag about banging the new kid from downstairs even while people were on business calls. Janine once had to put a client on hold just to politely tell Dizzy to keep it down. It was getting unprofessional. Dizzy just smirked and said, "You're not my boss, little girl." That was kind of the final strike for Janine. She had endured months of obnoxious behavior and was done. All she had to do was wait for the right opportunity to come. Well, the right opportunity came after Dizzy left for lunch with one of her adultery partners one day. Her fiancé, who was also way younger than her, yuck, came in at about the same time Janine was preparing to leave on her own break. The fiancé vaguely recognized her and asked if Dizzy was in. Janine confirmed that no, she'd left for lunch already. The guy smiled and said, "Oh, right, with female office worker who would not go to lunch with Dizzy if you paid her." Janine said she simultaneously felt really sorry for the guy and angry at Dizzy for playing him. And suddenly she saw her chance. Using some quick thinking, she acted really befuddled and said, "No, I thought she went with her guy friend." Fiancé's face fell and started saying that it couldn't be right. She said she was going with her good friend, office worker, like she does every day. Janine said, no, she went with a young guy with blonde hair. They were taking her car to restaurant. The guy looked absolutely destroyed, and Janine was not happy about that part of it, believe me. She was angry because Dizzy had bamboozled this guy into a relationship and then cheated on him so publicly. The fiancé actually thanked her for telling him and asked her name before he left. Janine gave him the secretary's name. The second part is the best in my opinion because Janine did not even have to work for this part of the revenge. No, this one was all fiancé. Apparently, Dizzy was as much of a gossip at home as she'd been at the office. Those secrets she'd learned? Yeah, she blabbed them in front of fiancé, and fiancé set about wrecking her career. First, he went home and acted like everything was fine while he got all his ducks in a row. He typed up every bit of info she'd ever leaked in an official-looking letter, waited for her to go to work, then sent it to every person in the office by BCC. Literally everyone got to watch Dizzy get called to a meeting with the boss, knowing exactly what was going to happen. Dizzy was chewed out, fired, and escorted out by security while wailing that it wasn't fair. Janine had known it when she started the whole revenge ball rolling, but Dizzy had been privy to some sensitive information she shouldn't have known in the first place. Investigations happened, and the secretary was encouraged to seek employment elsewhere. Janine found this last part out from a coworker, a lady too nice for her own damn good, who became Janine's echo chamber after the secretary betrayed her. Yes, she totally thought secretary was behind the whole thing, LOL. Dizzy came home wailing to her fiancé, who coldly informed her he knew she was cheating on him and the engagement was off. Dizzy wept and wailed, but fiancé produced pictures he had taken of her on dates with her boy toys. That was it. The last Janine heard, Dizzy had moved back in with her parents and was involved in an MLM. Karma hurts, right? And our last story. Oh, I'm not the boss? I had a job for a while where I was supposed to be the night shift quality control tech, but ended up running the entire shift because the supervisor was unreliable. He was eventually fired, and I officially ran the shift for a few months before a new supervisor was hired. We'll call him E. E was drinking buddies with the owner and would often call off or show up drunk. In 6 months, I don't believe he ever worked a full 40-hour week. Everyone just kind of rolled with the idea that E was in charge on paper, But I was in charge in reality. E really didn't like that. He went crying to HR, and after yet another night where E showed up long enough to screw up everything and leave, HR called me in. The conversation went like this. HR, you know you're not the boss, right? Me, yeah? HR, E says the guys listen to you more than him. Me, hard to listen to a guy who's never there. HR, that's a bad attitude. I'm sending you to a class on how to deal with difficult people, and you're not a boss. Me, so what do I do if E doesn't show up? HR, you're not a boss, you do nothing. Me, in my head, awesome. She then issued me write-ups detailing this conversation. 2 nights later, E calls off. I listened. The second shift supervisor calls me into the office to tell me what's going on and have me set the schedule. I'm not a boss. He asked me if I'm going to call the production manager. I told him to no answer, big surprise, and he tried calling a few other managers. No answer. Workers are coming in. What are we doing? Don't know. I'm not a boss. The second shift supervisor set the schedule and left. He didn't get paid enough to deal with this either. The supervisors were the only ones with machine lock codes to fix faults. Press goes down. I'm not a boss. Hey, I need tooling only the supervisor can issue. I'm not a boss. I need paperwork not related to quality. I'm not a boss. Finally, my senior operator got fed up with sweeping. This is about 3 hours after his lathe went down on a simple error and asked me for HR's number. Now that I can definitely do. Dial 9 for an outside line. He called her repeatedly for close to half an hour before she answered. He told her to get her butt up to the shop and hung up. The whole shift at this point, nothing was running, sat in QC for about an hour before she showed up. HR, oh, why's nothing running? Me, I'm not a boss. HR, well, where's E? Me, called off. HR, well then you're in charge. I reached into my desk and pulled out the training slip and write-up she gave me earlier. Not according to these. HR, I didn't mean it like that. Me, then you shouldn't have written it like that. HR, what will it take to get you to forget that conversation? Me, an apology, cancel my class, and next time that alcoholic comes crying to you, tell him that we'll all start treating him like he's in charge when he starts acting like it. After the most insincere apology I've ever heard, I got everything running again and never heard anything about it again. Bonus, I got a new job a few months later, and E quit in the middle of a full-on 5-year-old temper tantrum when they informed him that he'd have to cover my job until they found a replacement. It was beautiful, and my senior operator got a nice promotion out of it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.